Today I'm breaking down all 40 of the strongest characters in Demon Slayer. Let me start with the weakest, working my way up to the absolute powerhouses. At number 40 I have Kaguya Ubuyashiki. Now why is someone too weak to lift a sword among the strongest characters? Let me break it down for you. Kaguya is the 97th head of the Demon Slayer Corps and was born cursed. His genetic illness was passed down through his bloodline. It's so bad not a single Ubuyashiki lived past 30, so he already knew he was gonna die. But when Muzan finally came to make sure that it happens, Kaguya welcomed him calmly. He turned his own death into a trap. He caught Muzan off guard and blew up the entire state, including himself with a bomb. All of that just to buy a few precious seconds for the hashira that changed everything. That's how much of a leader and strategist he was. Even Muzan, the demon who's seen centuries of war, froze. Not because of the explosion, of course, but because of Kaguya's resolve. So even if he can't throw fists, Kaguya's will, as you can agree, a lot stronger than most of the characters. At number 39 I have Tanjiro Kamado. If Muzan had met Tanjiro first, he might have created the perfect demon and conquered the sun years earlier. Tanjiro never fought a demon, and he wasn't a hashira or a demon slayer, or even a trained swordsman. But his body, mind, and spirit all pointed to something rare, his high potential. Even as a regular human, he performed a full Hinokami Kagura ritual, 13 forms, danced from dusk till dawn every year. That alone would break most fighters, but he did it sick, weak, and calm as falling snow. In chapter 151, he faced a bear that had killed 6 people. He was feverish, barefooted, in winter. He even brought it down with one strike. Even Tanjiro noticed it. His father's scent never changed. No rage, no fear, just stillness. So Tanjiro had killer instincts and a cold heart. He was a natural killer and he must have done it many times. Maybe if Tanjiro was found and trained by the Demon Slayer Corps when he was younger or by Muzan, he could have changed history. At 38, Yushiro, who got it down bad for Miss Tamayo and acts like a Discord server mod. Back when Yushiro was still human, he was super sick and didn't want to live anymore. But Tamayo saved him. She turned him into a demon, with consent, to save his life. And the Twilight fans stood up and clapped. And in return, Bro gave her internal loyalty, his sanity, and his browser history. He listens to everything she says, follows her everywhere. To be honest though, his contribution to the fight against Muzan was underrated. Yushiro's combat skills aren't much, but his blood demon art blindfold made up for it. He could totally hide anyone's presence, including his own. Even Muzan himself can't see them until it's too late. Also, Yushiro's intelligence came in clutch during the Infinity Castle arc, when he got into Nakime's head and basically backseat drove her to control the entire space. Until Muzan got so frustrated he exploded Nakame like a piñata. Yushiro really puts the U in useful. He also provided Inosuke with paper talismans that helped him. Kanao and Zenitsu launched surprise attacks on Muzan during the Countdown to Sunrise arc. It even helped Open Eye get some vision after losing both his eyes to Muzan's attack. And number 37 is Kyogai, who once held a spot among the 12 Kizuki, but something about him didn't sit right with Muzan. Kyogai wasn't your typical demon. Before his transformation, he was a writer, desperate to leave his mark on the world. When illness and rejection broke him, he turned to blood for power. And for a time it worked. He earned the title of Lower Rank 6, but it didn't last. Despite his strength and skill, Muzan saw him as stagnant, unworthy, and without hesitation, stripped him of his rank, and not for failure in battle, but for lacking potential. Still, Kyogai's blood demon art was uniquely dangerous, with drums embedded in his body, which let him shift space at will, rotate rooms, flip gravity, launch slicing attacks with every beat. Fighting him was like stepping into a musical death trap. One wrong move and the floor could become a wall, followed by a slash across your back. He eventually fell into Tanjiro's hands, but in close quarters his domain control made him far deadlier than his fallen rank suggests. Kyogai didn't lose because he was weak. He lost because in Muzan's eyes, he had already peaked. Rui didn't want power. He wanted a family that couldn't abandon him, and turned into a monster trying to force it. As a lower rank 5 of the 12 Kizuki, Rui was deceptively dangerous. He wasn't large, loud, or chaotic. He was quiet and controlled. He's the kind of threat that spins a web before you realize you're caught in it. Born frail and sickly, Rui accepted Muzan's blood to escape weakness. But the transformation horrified his parents, who planned to end his life and then their own. But Rui killed them first. Since then, he's tried to rebuild the family he lost. On Mount Natagumo, he crafted a fake family of demons and assigned a role to each one of them. So he had a demon father, a demon mother, and demon siblings. Basically, an Asian family. None of them wanted it, but Rui enforced obedience with fear, punishment, and razor-thin threads. Those threads were his blood demon art, and they were sharp, durable, and deadly. He could cut through limbs and redirect attacks mid-air. He nearly killed Tanjiro with a single swing, but that fight didn't go as planned. Nezuko awakened her blood demon art. Tanjiro tapped into Hinokami Kagura. Even then, Rui survived the combined assault. It took Gyu Tomioka, the water hashira, to finish it in one clean strike. Muzan took his death personally, shortly after he slaughtered the remaining lower moons, and whether he admitted it or not, Rui might have been the only one he respected. Next we got Enmu. He won't kill you with strength, he kills you with comfort. He makes you thank him for the dream while he murders you inside it, and somehow he's only ranked 31. Enmu was Muzan's last surviving lower moon. On the Mugen train, he took down 4 demon slayers before the fight even started. There wasn't any combat. All he used was a train ticket soaked in demon blood and one punch from the conductor. You know you're in trouble when the scariest thing on the train isn't the demon, it's the customer service. Next thing you knew, Tanjiro, Inosuke, Zenitsu, and Rengoku were out cold, locked in their dreams that were designed to sedate and manipulate them. And here's where it gets twisted. While the heroes slept, Enmu sent broken passengers into their minds to stab their spiritual cores. It almost worked. Except, being a hashira, Rengoku's soul was untouchable, and being nuts, Tanjiro killed himself repeatedly until the dream was broken. Say what you will about Tanjiro, man, but the guy treats death like a snooze button. Enmu's ability was that broken. But Enmu wasn't done. Even after being beheaded, he didn't die. Because that wasn't his body anymore. The entire train was. He'd fused himself into the engine, the carriages, the tracks. Eyeballs with hypnosis kanji popped out of the walls. The moment you looked, you were hypnotized. Fleshy tendrils grabbed passengers by the dozen. And somehow the gang still fought back. Zenitsu fought in his sleep. Nezuko burned through the ropes with her blood. And Inosuke, bless his boar head, was immune to eye contact hypnosis and led the final push. Together they destroyed the train. And that's Enmu's fatal flaw. Without the dream setup, the hypnotic eyes, the vulnerable passengers, the blood-soaked tickets, the conductor, the moving fortress, he folds. Rui was a brute with trauma. Enmu was a magician with one trick and a backup plan. Take all that away and he's just monologuing with a hand mouth. But for one night, on that train, Enmu turned sleep into a battlefield. And it almost worked. At 34th place we have Kaigaku. He betrayed his master, became a demon, mastered every thunder breathing form, except the one that mattered, and somehow still lost to the guy with just one move. Kaigaku was supposed to be the future of Thunder Hashira. He learned all 5 forms under Jigoro, except the first. Thunderclap and Flash, the foundation of the style. But instead of improving, he defected. Muzan turned him into a demon and Jigoro died by seppuku because of it. Which is ironic because Kaigaku was the one who committed career suicide. Now, in upper rank 6, Kaigaku fused his thunder breathing with a blood demon art. He could regenerate real black lightning that's great at searing flesh, cracking bone, tearing Zenitsu's body apart mid-fight. Rice Spirit, Distant Thunder, Thunder Swarm. He unleashed every form in rapid fire waves, and for most of the fight he was winning. But Kaigaku never understood why he was losing. Because apart from the first form, he was also lacking in something else compared to Zenitsu. His power came without discipline, and his form came without heart. He was basically a storm cloud with daddy issues. And that's what made Zenitsu more than his equal. In that moment, Zenitsu surpassed him. He unleashed 7th form, Honoi Kazuchi no Kami, a move he invented mid-battle. One god speed slash, and it ended Kaigaku. Kaigaku ranks above Enmu because Enmu needed a train, dream loops, and a whole cast of accomplices to do damage. But Kaigaku was a solo upper rank with real lethalness. Number 33 we have Gyoko, the upper rank sculptor of suffering. He called himself a master artist, but his medium is just a bit dead. Gyoko wasn't just a demon, he was a gallery of nightmares. Upper rank 5 with a blood demon art that turned porcelain pots into portals, water into weapons, and corpses into installations. Basically, Etsy for psychopaths. I'm not even being poetic. His proudest creation was a pile of living swordsmiths fused together into a screaming masterpiece. Before Muzan gave him demon blood, Gyoko was already a serial killer. He murdered children and displayed their remains. That cruelty made him a perfect fit for the Kizuki. When he faced Muichiro Tokito, a 14-year-old missed hashira with memory issues, Gyoko was arrogant. He flexed his powers, the giant poison-spewing fish, octopus tentacles, teleporting pots, suffocating water prisons. He even molted into a serpent form with diamond-hard scales and fish punches that could level trees. He looked like sushi that evolved just to be able to punch back. And for a while it worked. He wounded Tokito, trapped him, and mocked him. But then the mist cleared. Tokito awakened his Demon Slayer mark, and everything changed. Gyoko couldn't land a single hit. Even his final technique, Killer Fish Scales, was useless against his mist breathing, obscuring clouds. Tokito vanished from sight, reappeared behind him, and cut him down without fanfare. So compared to the other upper ranks, Gyoko had quite elite versatility, but weak instincts. His true form was dangerous. It's faster, tougher, unpredictable, but it came too late. Against weaker opponents like Inosuke or Genya, he would have drowned them in creative chaos. But against a prodigy like Tokito, all his art got was archived. At 34th place we have Tamayo, the demon who didn't sharpen a sword, spent 400 years planning how to kill him, and made the Muzan bleed, probably more than most swordsmen. Tamayo wasn't a fighter. She couldn't blitz a demon or swing a blade, but she didn't need to. She was Muzan's early experiment, a demon created long before the 12 Kizuki ever formed. But during Muzan's clash with Yoruichi, Tamayo slipped from his control, and instead of running, she chose revenge. Over the centuries, she became the most brilliant medical mind in Demon Slayer history. While the Hashira mastered sword forms, Tamayo mastered cellular manipulation, blood enchantment, and sensory spells. Her blood demon art, blood bewitchment, could hijack your mind with illusions, flowers, and even a truth serum that melted your will. No brute force, just biochemical warfare. But her legacy wasn't flashy, it was the plan. She worked in the shadows, gathering Muzan's lineage data, experimenting with demon blood, studying Nezuko's resistance. And by the time Muzan attacked the Ubuyashiki estate, she was ready. Tamayo emerged from the rubble, pierced Muzan's body, and injected a 4-part poison, one to weaken him, one to slow his regeneration, one to reverse his immortality, and one to turn him human again. Muzan was immortal, but Tamayo made sure he stayed killable. Even as he ripped her apart, her formula kept burning through him, and every blade that landed after from Giyu to Gyome was only possible because of her. Compared to every other support in Demon Slayer, Tamayo changed the final battle more than anyone without ever holding a sword. Next up at 29, 30, and 31st places are Maki, Suma, and Hinatsuru, the ultimate support team any man could ever ask for. They are basically every harem anime MC's dream come true. Makio, Suma, and Hinatsuru are Tengen Uzui's powerhouse partners. Literally the shadow unit of the entertainment district rated. All three are skilled in infiltration, disguise, and information gathering, and on top of that, smoking hot, which made them the perfect trio to investigate the red light district. But when they stopped communicating with Tengen, he became anxious and went to find them. And that's the start of the entertainment district arc. The three wives pulled their weight in this arc. Of course, they're not flashy swordsmen, but they don't need to be. These three Hinoichi have plenty of other tricks up their sleeves. The three of them coordinated with Tengen and other demon slayers, and helped them take down Gyutaro and Daki. Hinatsuru's poison kunai slowed down Gyutaro. Makia's coordination and Suma's well-timed distractions gave Zenitsu and Inosuke breathing room. Without them, Tengen would have been sliced to bits before round 2. Individually, they're no match for Inosuke, but they aren't ranked here for raw combat power, but for teamwork and the ability to actually survive against upper-ranked bloodlust. At 28, we've got Inosuke Hashibara. He wasn't trained by a master, he was raised by animals, and somehow that worked. Inosuke fights with beast breathing, a chaotic, unpredictable style that looks less like swordsmanship and more like a force brawl. He dual wields serrated blades, charges headfirst into demons 3 times his size, and treats pain like it's just another vitamin. In the Tsunami Mansion, he took down a horned monster solo. In the Mugen Train arc, he fought through Enmu's flesh and saved Tanjiro from dream suicide. In the Entertainment District, he cut off Daki's head while poisoned and bleeding out, then just popped his body back into place like it was, "It's Tuesday, isn't it?" He dislocated his heart, like most people misplace their keys. And in the Doma fight, he created a new technique on the fly, sudden throwing strike, okay? To help Kanao finish upper rank 2. So, he's wild, but he's also clutch. So, here's the catch. So his power is pure instinct, not technique. He's unpredictable, but also undisciplined. He charges in, takes hits, and wins by sheer willpower, not polish. If he fought someone like Giyu or Kanao in a real duel, he's getting read like a children's book. Still, he's gone toe-to-toe with upper moons and lived. Tamayo couldn't do that. And even guys higher on this list haven't tanked as much as Inosuke has and kept laughing. He's not refined, but when everything's on fire and your team needs someone who won't back down, Inosuke's already halfway through the flames. At 27 we've got Kanao Suyuri, the quiet girl with the loudest clutch in the series. She sees in slow motion, fights like a ghost, and she saved the world with one stab. Kanao fights using flower breathing, a graceful, agile style that mirrors her calm, calculating nature. But underneath all that serenity is a fighter shaped by hell. She was sold by her parents and was beaten into silence. So traumatized, she needed a coin just to decide whether to eat. That kind of quiet doesn't come from peace. But Shinobu adopted her, trained her, and gave her one rule. If you can't decide, just flip the coin. And that's how Kanao lived for years. Until Tanjiro flipped something else inside her. And I'm not talking about her guts, just take it easy, boys. She started choosing on her own. And when Doma, the upper rank 2, was killed, Shinobu and Kanae arrived. She didn't flip a coin, she flipped the fight. Using Equinocto for a million eye, Kanao tracked Doma's movements in real time, dodging his blood demon art like she had the script. Her sword work was flawless, and her resolve was unshakable. Even after her final slash failed to decapitate him, she didn't stop. That's when Inosuke threw his blades into her strike and together they took his head. But she wasn't done. When Demon Tanjiro lost control in the finale, everyone froze, except Kanao. One eye blind, with ribs probably broken, she activated Vermilion Eye one last time and injected the cure into his neck, saving humanity from Muzan 2.0. She isn't the strongest, she's not the fastest, but when the pressure peaks, she delivers. More than Tamayo, more than Inosuke. At 26 we've got Zenitsu, the coward who became a lightning god in his sleep. He was a crier, he begged, he fainted, but when it mattered, the man erased an upper rank with one slash. Zenitsu mastered exactly one technique. Thunder breathing first form. That's it. But he pushed it so far, 6-fold, 8-fold, Godspeed, that it became the only move he ever needed. Some people slept on Zenitsu, and ironically, he did too. He was at his best while unconscious, like during the Mugen Train arc where he sliced through Enmu's flesh mid-dream to protect Nezuko, muttering her name like she was the only thing anchoring him to life. He didn't even know he was being a hero. The boy just was. But the real turning point for him was his master's death. That's what broke something inside him. Zenitsu found out Kaigaku defected, became a demon and drove their teacher to seppuku. He walked into that final fight different. He became cold and decisive. There was no sign of his usual whining or fear. Kaigaku thought being in upper rank 6 made him untouchable, but Zenitsu showed him what a real legacy looks like. He invented his own form, Thunder Breathing 7th form, and used it to slice Kaigaku clean in midair. At 25 we've got Genya, the only demon slayer who thought, why slay demons when you can eat them? It wasn't breathing techniques, it wasn't talent, just bullets, rage, and a diet that makes Muzan nervous. Honestly, if Genya had a cookbook, it would get banned in 13 countries. Genya didn't fight like a typical slayer. He doesn't cut heads, he blasts them with Nichiren shotgun shells, backed by berserker level brawling. He eats demon flesh and partially transforms, healing fatal wounds and unlocking blood demon art-like abilities on the spot. In the Swordsmith Village arc, Genya tanks Karaku's wind blasts, gets skewered by Aizetsu's spear, zapped by Sekiro's lightning, and keeps fighting. He even shields Tanjiro from a kill shot, rips Urami's arms off with his bare hands, and locates Hantengu's real body while half dead. He can't land the final blow, but he delivers the setup every time. Then in the Infinity Castle, he eats part of Kokushibo's sword and unlocks a blood demon art of his own called Vampiric Trees, which that move locks down Upper Moon 1 long enough for Sanemi, Moichiro, and Gyome to land critical strikes. While Zenitsu strikes lightning, Genya survives storms. Zenitsu needs unconscious confidence. Genya fights through pain, fear, any body parts falling off, awake and relentless. If Zenitsu's a finisher, then Genya is the reason the fight gets there at all. At 24, we've got the smiling assassin of the Demon Slayer Corps, Shinobu Kocho, the insect hashira. She couldn't cut off a demon's head, so she turned her entire body into a weapon. While most Demon Slayers train to decapitate, Shinobu said, "Why swing harder when I can just chemically delete you?" This is basically what happens when a pharmacist gets experience in homicide. In the Mount Natagumo arc, she glides past the spider daughter's acidic webs and takes her down without breaking a sweat, injecting lethal poison with her butterfly dance, caprice, and ending it in one graceful strike. Pure toxic elegance, no brute force. In the Infinity Castle, she joins the final assault on Muzan and lands another caprice strike while flanking with the other hashira, holding her own despite not having raw strength. But her final act is what cements her on this list. Against Doma, upper rank 2, the man who murdered her sister, Shinobu knows she can't overpower him, so she outsmarts him. She floods her body with 70x the lethal dose of wisteria poison, fights Doma in a flurry of insect-themed strikes like bee sting, dragonfly dance, centipede, and lets herself be eaten, because sometimes the most efficient way to kill someone is from the inside out. From inside him, the poison started melting Doma down to the bone, leaving him wide open for Kanao and Inosuke to finish the job. Unlike Genya and Zenitsu, Shinobu doesn't need rage or instinct to deliver a kill. She operates on strategy, sacrifice, and timing. She fought with science, venom, and surgical vengeance. And when the moment came, she pulled off the most precise assassination in the series. At 23, we've got the Flower Hashira, who stood for mercy, and stood her ground till sunrise. Kanae Kocho. She believed demons could change. The universe said, bet, and sent upper rank 2 to test that faith. Kanae wasn't a backup character. She was one of the strongest hashira of her time. She didn't use poison like Shinobu, she used pure technique and steel. Wielding a standard Nichiren blade, she mastered flower breathing and taught it to Kanao just by example. Techniques like peonies of futility and whirling peach let her fight with a rhythm that looked like dancing, but every move had killing intent. She even had access to the equinoctial vermilion eye, which lets you see in slow motion at the risk of blinding yourself. That's how hard she pushed her body. But her ultimate feat was when she went head to head with Doma, the same demon who would later kill Shinobu in seconds. Kanae couldn't win, but she didn't break either. She stalled him until sunrise, a feat no other hashira without poison or trickery ever pulled off. And unlike Shinobu, Kanae had the strength to fight toe-to-toe. And unlike Genya, she didn't need demon hacks or regeneration. It was skill versus nightmare, and she held the line. Her legacy wasn't just the breathing style she passed on, it was the hope she planted, which bloomed in Kanao. Coming in at 22 is the man who taught flame breathing, then tried to burn the whole legacy down, Shinjuro Rengoku, the former flame hashira, the one who beat a future lower moon while blackout drunk. Shinjiro might have looked like a washed up dad with anger issues, but don't get it twisted. This man was a monster in his prime. Even in retirement, he ragdolled Tanjiro with one hand. And this is post Enmu Tanjiro, who just helped kill a lower rank. Tanjiro said it himself. He doesn't move like a normal person. That's a euphemism for, the old guy still hits like a truck. And if that wasn't enough, he clapped Haido, who later became lower rank 2 in a fit of rage. Which means even in grief and weakness, Shinjuro had upper moon killer instincts. You know, you're built different when your emotional breakdown has a body count. He mastered flame breathing back when the core was even deadlier. And while we never saw his peak in action, the feats speak for themselves. Unlike Kanae, Shinjiro actually killed a future upper moon level demon. And unlike Shinobu or Genya, he didn't need poison or hacks. Just fists, fury, and fundamental technique. And if that fire ever returned in full, this man could have taken Akaza head on. At 21, we've got the Thunder Grandpa himself, Jigoro Kuwajima. The retired Thunder hashira with one leg, 2 idiot students, and a legacy carved in lightning. He's a man who invented the playbook that Zenitsu used to solo Kaigaku. Jigoro mastered all 6 thunder breathing forms and could have dropped any lower rank if he hadn't retired. Even after losing a leg, he still trained his successors like a drill sergeant with PTSD and a lightning obsession. Tanjiro had rocks, Zenitsu had trauma, thanks to Jigoro. While Shinjuro flamed out and fell apart, Jigoro passed the torch and made legends. Even Kaigaku's betrayal couldn't erase that. I mean, the results speak for themselves. Kaigaku got so good, Muzan recruited him. Zenitsu became a thunderstorm in a yellow cloak. And Zenitsu's final fight with Kaigaku wasn't just revenge, it was proof. Proof that Grandpa Jigoro's training worked. Proof that the old man's lightning never fades. At number 20, we've got the former water hashira, the man behind the mask, Sakonji Urokodaki. Before Tanjiro ever swung a sword, before Gyu ever wore that half and half drip, there was this man, flipping kids into the dirt and teaching them how to slice through demons like they were paper. Let's be clear, Sakonji isn't a good teacher. He's the blueprint. If he opened a school today, the enrollment form would say, survival not guaranteed. This is the guy who single-handedly imprisoned the hand demon who had killed at least 13 of Sakonji's own disciples, and he caught it alive. Even in retirement, he clowned Tanjiro during training by outpacing, outgrappling, and outsniffing him. He had a cracked nose, he could smell fear, sadness, and your moral compass. And his legacy's insane. Gyu, current water hashira. Tanjiro literally slayed Muzan. Sabito and Makomo sacrificed themselves and still outperformed half the candidates in final selection. Sakonji trained all of them. He's the original cultivator of water breathing. He didn't just know all 10 forms, he taught them, refined them, and passed them on. He's old now, sure, but back in the day, he was fast enough to sneak up on demons, strong enough to floor you with a pinky. He was the water hashira for a reason. While Jigoro had 2 students and 1 betrayal, Sakonji had an entire graveyard, and still kept training heroes anyway. At number 19, we have Tengen Uzui. He's the hashira who fights like a ninja, sounds like a rock concert, and still managed to outstyle everyone both in battle and fashion. Tengen is one of the most unique fighters in the Corps. His dual Nichiren cleavers, connected by chains, are like musical instruments for his sound breathing. With his breathing technique, he fights based on rhythm and easily reads his opponent's moves. In the entertainment district, when he faced Gyutaro and Daki, his musical score ability let him analyze Gyutaro's attacks like sheet music, predicting his rhythm and countering with explosive precision. Even after being poisoned and losing an arm, Tengen coordinated with Tanjiro, Zenitsu, and Inosuke to land the killing blows. Still, the fight turned out to be too much for him, so he retired as a sound hashira. But we later saw him and his wives again in the hashira training arc, leading a relatively less flashy life. Compared to Mitsuri, Tengen has proven himself against tougher odds, but he doesn't surpass Obanai or Rengoku in raw finishing power. At 18, we've got Mitsuri Kanroji, the love hashira, who can literally snap your spine and then ask if you're okay after. She's the kind of girl who joined the Demon Slayer Corps to find a man, because somewhere along the way she became strong enough to clap up her moons, which is probably the most intense dating arc in shonen history. Mitsuri isn't just strong, she's weirdly strong. Her muscles are 8 times denser than normal. She's basically packing Hulk strength in a Barbie package. And to fuel that power, she eats like 3 sumo wrestlers. The original thick, but quick. Her love breathing is one of the flashiest styles in the Corps. Think flame breathing, but make it sparkle. Her sword is more like a murder ribbon. It bends, twists, and slices in ways no normal blade or person should. She's literally the only one who can use it without chopping herself in half, by the way. Against Zohakutin, one of Hantengo's nastiest clones, Mitsuri unlocked her Demon Slayer mark. She dodged lightning, tanked sound blasts, and still managed to save the squad. Even with broken bones and body crushed, she kept swinging until sunrise. Just from that, we can be sure that she could actually be on the same level, or even higher than the peak Sakonoji and Jigoro. At 17, we've got Obanai Iguro, the serpent hashira, who's all edge, no chill, and somehow still simping mid-battle. His entire life was a survival horror game. Born into a cult of freaks who worshipped a demon snake lady, Obanai was literally raised to be dinner. He escaped, barely, and watched his whole family get wiped out because he said nah to getting eaten. But instead of folding after all that trauma on speedrun, he joined the Demon Slayer Corps and turned the snake vibes into his whole thing. His serpent breathing isn't just for show. Every slash, every movement is unpredictable, coiling, and precise like a snake. It's like fighting a slithering sword that bites from angles that you can't even see. But here's the kicker. Obanai pulled all of this off half blind. The man made hashira with one eye, then lost the other one fighting Muzan and still kept fighting. Because lack of vision is not a problem for this guy. He just let his pet snake, Kaburamuru, read enemy attacks and kept swinging. Like, Obanai literally outsourced eyesight to a reptile like he was from India and still outperformed half the roster. But don't get it twisted. Underneath that venom was a soft spot, and it's called Mitsuri Kanroji. Bro was down bad for her. He trained harder, fought longer, and nearly died a dozen times over just to stand beside her. And when it came time to face Muzan, Obanai unleashed his Demon Slayer mark, his bright red blade, and even accessed the transparent world, all while literally blind. Obanai literally held off the Demon King himself until sunrise. Imagine what he could have done if he had both his eyes. He didn't get the peaceful life he wanted, but he did get the respect. And in the end, he went out exactly the way he lived, fighting like a demon, loving like a human. And number 16, we have Kyojuro Rengoku, the flame hashira whose spirit burned brighter than anyone else's. He's the man who stood alone against an upper rank demon and didn't take a single step back. Rengoku's record speaks for itself. He single-handedly neutralized lower rank threats without breaking stride, saving lives during the flute demon incident, dismantling the slasher demon, and defeating the explosive lower rank 2, Haido. But his true defining moment came aboard the Mugen train, where he safeguarded 200 passengers while Tanjiro and Inosuke struggled against Enmu. And that was just the warm-up. When Akaza, upper rank 3, arrived, Rengoku didn't hesitate. While Akaza admired his strength and offered him immortality, Rengoku refused. After that followed one of the most intense high-speed clashes in the entire series. Despite losing an eye, sustaining fatal wounds, and standing completely alone, Rengoku's resolve never faltered. He pushed Akaza to the brink, so much so that the demon was forced to retreat before dawn. Akaza wanted to give Rengoku immortality because, apparently dying was the only way for him to get a break. But what made Rengoku truly exceptional wasn't just the power, it was his unyielding heart. Even in death, he uplifted others, passing his will to Tanjiro and inspiring the next generation. It carried the weight of family, tragedy, a crumbling household, and the expectation of the core. And he met them all with a smile, burning at its highest, even in death. That's why he ranks above Obanai, because while Obanai showcased grit, Rengoku faced and nearly defeated a higher ranked demon alone, saving countless lives, becoming a symbol of hope for the entire core. And number 15, we have Moichiro Tokito, the mist hashira who shattered limits, broke records, and gave his life. He's a prodigy that started as an emotionless blank slate and ended as one of the most heroic fighters in the Demon Slayer history. His rise began in the Swordsmith Village arc, where he faced upper rank 5 Gyoko. While most would crumble under Gyoko's twisted blood demon art, Moichiro awakened his Demon Slayer mark, pushed past his limits, and obliterated Gyoko in a clean, overwhelming display. It wasn't even close. But his defining moment came against upper rank 1 Kokushibo, a demon so powerful that no hashira had ever been able to kill someone of his level. Against Kokushibo, Moichiro fought beyond logic. He lost an arm, then both legs, and still refused to fall. He unleashed everything: mist breathing, transparent world, and finally his bright red Nichiren sword, the only thing capable of slowing Kokushibo's monstrous regeneration. Even while mortally wounded, he burned Kokushibo's flesh from the inside, setting the stage for Gyome and Sanemi to finish the job. At one point, Moichiro was basically just a torso with a sword, and still somehow the most dangerous thing in the room. And what made him different from the others wasn't just skill, it was sheer will. Moichiro is ranked above Rengoku because while Rengoku fell to an upper rank 3, despite immense courage, Moichiro directly contributed to the death of upper rank 1, the highest demon ever killed by Demon Slayers in over 100 years. He helped change history, even at the cost of his life. And as the mist cleared, he wasn't the empty prodigy anymore. He was the boy who remembered. At number 14, we've got Gyu Tomioka, the water hashira who lets his sword do the talking and still says more than most people could ever say. He's the man who survived when others didn't, the lonely boy who lost his sister, then lost his best friend. While most break under grief, Gyu became steel. Not flashy, not loud, just precise, relentlessly. His water-breathing 11th form, Dead Calm, is one of the purest expressions of swordsmanship in the series. No wasted motion or fear, just perfect stillness before the perfect kill. When Rui, a lower-ranked demon that gave Tanjiro hell, tried to flex, Gyu erased him in seconds. Rui had an entire backstory prepared, and Gyu gave him 5 seconds of screen time. But his true test came later against Akaza. Facing an upper rank 3, Gyu awakened his Demon Slayer mark and fought toe-to-toe with a monster who could regenerate faster than anyone could strike. While Tanjiro pushed for the opening, Gyu held the line, matching Akaza's blitz attacks and brutal strength. While bleeding, while broken, he never stopped. And when the endgame arrived against Muzan, Gyu was still there, battered, exhausted, half dead, carving through the Demon King's flesh alongside the last surviving hashira. Where Moichiro burned out in a single monumental battle, Gyu lasted. Endurance. From Rui to Akaza to Muzan, he survived them all. His consistent contribution, resilience, and leadership in every major war zone gives him the edge. The boy who once stood alone became the unwavering wall, and without him the Demon Slayer Corps wouldn't have made it to dawn. At number 13 we have Gyome Himejima, the Stone Hashira, the strongest pillar of the Demon Slayer Corps, and living proof that you don't need eyes to see the path forward. Before he was the Corps' Iron Wall, he was just Gyome Ni, the gentle big brother to temple orphans. And then came betrayal. Not just from the demon who devoured the children, but from Kaigaku, the same coward who would one day become upper rank 6. Gyome fought to save them, but the only child left alive, Sayo, couldn't explain what happened. Because of that, Gyome was blamed, jailed, broken, but Ubuyashiki gave him purpose, and Gyome never looked back. Like a stone would never melt. Where others wielded blades, Gyome wielded a massive flail and axe, a brutal, unorthodox weapon that matched his sheer physical might. With stone breathing in the transparent world, he didn't need sight. He felt the world through vibrations, instinct, faith. Gyome doesn't dodge attacks. He just senses disappointment. When Kokushibo, the strongest upper moon, appeared, Gyome led the charge. And when Muzan unleashed his full fury, Gyome was there again, slamming the Demon King with strikes that could break stone, buying the Corps precious time as the clock ticked towards sunrise. Where Gyu fought through battles, Gyome carried the entire front line. From the first clash with Muzan to the final breath of Kokushibo, all of it. At number 12 we have Sanami Shinazugawa, the Wind Hashira who didn't just fight demons, he fought the world, and every emotion that tried to slow him down. While Gyome was the Corps' strongest in sheer physicality, Sanami was probably the last man standing longer, bleeding harder, and somehow still swinging. His stamina and his constitution make his combat instincts one of the most relentless in the entire story. If this guy stubbed his toe, he'd probably declare war on the floorboards. At 12 he killed his own mother to save his little brother, Genya, only to have Genya reject him out of horror and grief. From that moment Sanami made a decision. If kindness gets people killed, then I'll be cruel enough to survive. He weaponized his rare Marichi blood, deadly bait for demons, and became the Corps' most aggressive hunter. Every scar and every wound was self-inflicted in the line of duty. His combat record speaks for itself. Against Kokushibo, Sanami not only kept pace, he helped lead the charge. So while most people would collapse from Kokushibo after a single blow, Sanami took hit after hit, lost fingers, lost blood, and still pressed forward. His Demon Slayer mark activated mid-battle, and he helped bring down Muzan, refusing to fall even as his body gave out, tearing into Muzan. At number 11 and 10th places we have Daki and Gyutaro, the 2-for-1 nightmare who held the title of upper rank 6 for over a century. As a duo they were nearly unbeatable. They fell because it took Tengen, Tanjiro, Zenitsu, Inosuke, Nezuko, and literal near death from all of them to pull it off. Let's break this down a bit. Daki is lethal on her own with her Obi Sash Blood Demon art, able to decimate whole city blocks, regenerate endlessly, and outmaneuver Tanjiro and Nezuko. But the true danger is that she's a decoy, the surface level threat that hides the real monster. Because the moment she's decapitated, Gyutaro, the true holder of the upper 6 title, emerges. And with his blood sickles and lethal poison, he nearly wipes out the entire team. Even Tengen, the sound Hashira, was poisoned, outpaced, and one step from death. Their power wasn't just combat, it was in survival. To kill them you needed to decapitate both siblings simultaneously. One mistiming and the whole fight resets. It was brutal, as a war of attrition, And even when Tanjiro unlocked his Demon Slayer mark and Tengen pushed past his limits, it still came down to the wire. Zenitsu and Inosuke had to sever Daki's head while Tanjiro, with Tengen's backup, handled Gyutaro. And even then it took perfect synchronicity. In the end, they were stripped of their claws, their power, their hatred. They were just broken children again. Two souls who clung to each other in life, in death, and even on the way to hell. At number 9, we have Hantengu, the coward who taught us that sometimes the most dangerous opponent is the one who never takes responsibility. Hantengu's blood demon art fractured reality itself into 4 fully independent element powerhouses, each with unique abilities that forced so many demon slayers into high-stakes battles all at the same time. No single fighter could contain it. No single blade could finish him. The fight was a puzzle. The fight wasn't a 1v1, it was more a group project with no leader and 6 due dates. Let's break it down. The moment Sekido, Karaku, Aizetsu, and Urogi hit the field, it was chaos. Lightning paralysis, crushing wind gusts, sniper-range spear strikes, aerial assaults with sonic shrieks. Even Moichiro, a future top 10 combatant, was momentarily overwhelmed. Even Mitsuri Kanroji's Demon Slayer mark barely kept up with the merged form. Zohakuten, a monstrous fusion that fought with multi-headed wooden dragons and near-limitless stamina. Hantengu's core strength wasn't overwhelming damage. It was survivability through multiplication, deception, and unpredictability. But somehow they cracked the code. They found the true body, cowardly, minuscule figure hiding inside layers of illusion and fear. And through combined breathing styles, Demon Slayer marks, and Nezuko's selfless act, they brought down Zohakuten, exposed Urami, and finished Hantengu under the rising sun. The victory also wasn't just defeating an upper rank. It marked the first time Nezuko conquered the sun itself, unlocking a power that would tilt the war's final balance. At 8, we've got Nezuko Kamado, the demon that does impossible things on a daily basis. In the Entertainment District arc, Nezuko awakened a terrifying new form, regenerating limbs instantly, outpacing Daki, and physically dominating an upper rank by tearing off her limbs and stomping her like she owed rent. And when Daki tried to recover, Nezuko's exploding blood turned her faster, burned her faster than she could heal, a rare feat even Hashira would struggle to match. And she didn't just stop there. In the fight against Hantengu's emotion clones, Nezuko saved Tanjiro multiple times, blasting demons with her blood flames and setting enemies on fire, and even turning Tanjiro's sword bright red in the final moment. Basically, Nezuko became the entire support class, DPS, and emergency torch in one tiny package. Most demons lose themselves to instinct. Nezuko never did. Even when she almost attacked a human, she pulled back. Even when exposed to sunlight, something fatal to every demon in history, she stood her ground. She stood her ground like it was a tanning booth and she'd paid for like the whole session or something. And that's the difference. Hantengu ran from death. Nezuko walked into it. She faced the one thing that had wiped out every demon for centuries. While they clung to life, Nezuko transcended it. At 7, we've got Tanjiro Kamado, the boy with the purest heart, the sharpest instincts, and the deadliest sunfire blade since the original Breath of the Sun user. While demons held fragments of power, Tanjiro fought and survived every single one of them, and still came back for more. In the Entertainment District, he faced Daki head-on, pushing past his limits, with Hino Kamikagara, even as his body fell apart. He roasted Daki like he was a backyard barbecue. When Gyutaro arrived, Tanjiro still stood and helped him land the decisive duel beheading that ended their reign of terror. In the Swordsmith Village arc, Tanjiro adapted, merging water-breathing and sun-breathing mid-battle against Hantengu, awakened his Demon Slayer mark, enhanced his reflexes, and decapitated Hantengu's final form in the nick of time while Mitsuri held off Zohakuten's rampage. But his true test came in the Infinity Castle. Standing shoulder to shoulder with Gyu against Akaza, he fought evenly, evolved mid-battle, and cut through both flesh and despair to help end Akaza's life. And when the time came for the final battle against Muzan, even poisoned, broken, shattered, Tanjiro was still standing and swinging. Even after Muzan tried to corrupt him, offering him power, immortality, domination, Tanjiro's heart never broke. Because strength wasn't the only reason Tanjiro made it this far, it was kindness. When he was about to become a demon, he was so overpowered for a moment that it took all the remaining survivors just to restrain him. And Tanjiro didn't become a full demon, and fought the conversion to a demon, even though he probably was more exhausted than most of the people present. And number 6 is Akaza, The demon who hit so hard, he punched a hole through one hashira and through his own memories. He wasn't just strong, he was one of the few upper moons who evolved mid-battle, mentally, emotionally, physically. Once he was a hakuji, a boy who fought to save his sick father. Then Keizo gave him a home, and Koyuki gave him love. And one day, cruelty took it all away. So Hakuji's hands, once meant to protect, became fists of destruction. Muzan didn't miss the opportunity. One demon injection later, Akaza was born. He became the ultimate martial artist, armed with destructive death, compass needle, and regeneration so fast it made swords look useless. His first real test was his fight against Rengoku. That's probably the first time Akaza ran away. You know you've lost when the guy with a hole in his chest looks more alive than you do. Then came the Infinity Castle, which was his final stage. Against Tanjiro and Giyu, Akaza unleashed everything. Air-type bombardments, annihilation-type strikes, literally everything. That was the purest, fastest, close quarters combat in the entire series. But Tanjiro fought back and reached Akaza's soul, and boom, Akaza's memories returned. The dojo, the woman he loved, the promise. And for the first time in centuries, Akaza chose to stop fighting. He erased himself, rejecting Muzan, rejecting mortality, so that the boy he used to be could finally come home. In the end, in my opinion, Akaza didn't lose. He won, because he died human. And number 5, we've got Doma, the cult leader who smiles like he cares, but couldn't feel a thing if his life depended on it, which funnily enough, it did. But why is Doma above Akaza on this list? Simple. While Akaza had more heart, Doma had more raw lethality, stronger regeneration, wider area attacks, colder in every sense. This guy didn't just kill hashira, he recruited them into his personal buffet. He was ruthlessly pragmatic. From day one, Doma was broken, born without emotions. He faked them so well he built an entire cult off personality. But his sermons were death sentences, and miracles he pulled gave people instant frostbite. For his blood demon art, this guy has ice clones, frozen lotuses, and a casual negative 95 degrees Celsius death breath. But here's where things get poetic. The man who felt nothing got ended by a girl who felt everything. Shinobu Kocho knew she couldn't beat him in raw strength, so she turned herself into a 37-kilogram poison pill in a butterfly clip. Doma couldn't feel he'd lost until it was too late. Sure, he won the first round, absorbing Shinobu and melting her bones, but then came Kanao and Inosuke, the revenge tag team. Doma died the way he lived, empty. And number 4 is Nakime, the demon who proved you don't need fists, fangs, flashy moves to run the whole damn show. While the other upper moons were out there throwing hands and catching L's, Nakime was rearranging reality itself. The Infinity Castle is a literal living maze she controlled with her biwa. Her one note could make a hashira vanish, and with 2 notes, gravity's upside down and your legs are filing for divorce. She was Muzan's ultimate defense system and interior designer. Forget martial arts, forget ice storms, her blood demon art was in control over space itself. She could teleport enemies into nowhere, separate teams before they could land a single hit, drop you into the void mid-swing. Literally the only upper moon who fought like she had a corporate job and a pension plan. Without her, Muzan's final stand wouldn't have happened. She was the architect of the battlefield, the reason the hashira got split up, delayed, and pushed to the brink inside the Infinity Castle. She didn't need to kill you directly, she just needed to let the castle do the work. Even Doma and Akaza wouldn't last 5 minutes if she didn't want them to. But here's a twist. Her downfall wasn't strength, it was strategy. While Mitsuri and Obanai tried and failed to reach her, it was Yushiro who cracked the code. He hijacked her mind, flipped her power against her, and locked her out of her own body. And when Muzan realized she was compromised, boom, headshot. Nakame wasn't just an upper rank, she was the invisible hand behind the chaos, who could have ended entire arcs solo. And number 3 is Kokushibo, the demon who had it all, and lost it chasing the shadow of a man he could never surpass. Once he was Michikatsu Sugikuni, Yoruichi's twin. He was a prodigy and a swordsman. He was destined for greatness, until he wasn't. Because the moment Yoruichi awakened sun breathing, the moment he saved their sword instructor with talent and defied physics, Michikatsu's story ended, and Kokushibo's story began. The man who could have been a hero instead chose to become a monster with a sword, trading humanity for 500 years of bitter second place. And he's upper rank 1 for a reason. His own style, the moon breathing, with his multi-directional slashes that spiral and devour, and living demon flesh katana forged from his own body. and enough power to take on 4 of the strongest demon slayers alone. He was a beast. In the Infinity Castle, he faced the stone, Gyome Himajima, the strongest hashira, the wind, Sanemi, all rage and resilience, the mist, Moichiro, the prodigy, and Genya, the wildcard who broke every rule. It was Thanos versus the Avengers, and they still couldn't bring him down. But here's a tragedy. Even in death, Kokushiba never hated Yoruichi. He hated himself. The man who could have stood beside the greatest, but chose envy instead. And number 2 is Muzan Kibutsuji, the Demon King, the CEO of gaslighting and gatekeeping his way through a millennium. Bro is the strongest demon alive, also the most fragile ego in existence. The man spent 1,000 years, yes, searching for a cure for the one thing that could end his reign, sunlight. And after all that time, turns out the flower he was looking for probably grew right next to the Kamoto family's rice paddy. You know, some guys knock your door to borrow sugar. This guy shows up and kills your mom. Class act. That one tantrum kicked off the entire plot. Muzan's battle record is horrifying. In the Infinity Castle arc, he obliterated Ubashiki's estate in seconds, wiped out entire squads of demon slayers without lifting a finger, fought Gyome, Sanemi, Giyu, Obanai, Mitsuri, and Tanjiro all at once like he was swatting flies. With his flesh whips, tentacles, black blood brambles, 7 hearts, 5 brains, he has every kind of an offense and defense in his arsenal. To top it off, even decapitation meant nothing. Every time the demon slayers landed a blow, Muzan regenerated faster, stronger. Even after getting his head crushed, his body refused to die. He was Michael Jackson meets Resident Evil, a walking nightmare you couldn't outrun, outfight, or outlast. And yet, he lost. The boy who symbolized everything Muzan hated, kindness, family, and self-sacrifice, rejected him. In the end, Muzan died exactly the way he lived, alone and running from the sunrise. And number 1, we have the man who didn't just raise the bar, he was the bar. Yoruichi Sukikuni, the first demon slayer. The only man Muzan Kibutsuji ever truly feared. The one person who could make death itself wait politely at the door. Born with the mark of the sun, he wasn't just a prodigy, he was a walking, natural calamity in human skin. While people needed years of training to become a swordsman, Yoruichi casually defeated his teacher as a child. Then he invented sun breathing, the original, the blueprint, and passed down the DNA for every other breathing style that followed. And when Muzan, the immortal apex predator, ran into Yoruichi for the first time, what started as a fight turned into a public execution real quick. Yoruichi sliced all 7 hearts and 5 brains before Muzan even processed what happened. The Demon King exploded into 1,800 pieces. Yoruichi vaporized 1,500 of them on the spot. The remaining bits only survived because physics gave up, not Yoruichi. Muzan still has PTSD whenever he sees Hanafuda earrings. But the craziest part about that is, Yoruichi never died in battle. Not against Muzan, not against Kokushibo, not even the curse of the mark that kills others before they hit their 30s. Bro lived to 87 because he was built different, I guess that's the only reason. Even in his final moments, old and blind, Yoruichi still sliced Kokushibo's throat before the demon could even draw his weapon. And when death finally came, he died standing, with his blade planted head high. Unlike others, he didn't need to abuse his mark, he was simply better than everyone, with or without it. That's why Yoruichi isn't just number 1, he's basically the son of the demon slayers. Now, since Yoruichi's sun breathing technique was the OG one, here are all the breathing styles in Demon Slayer created from it.